Welcome back, everyone. Last week I told you I was going to talk about paint. Specifically, we're going to talk about interior painting. There's going to be three things you need to know. What kind of paint, how much do you need, and what's the sheen. So the kind of paint, there's oil-based paint and there's water-based paint. Most people use water-based. It's just an easy cleanup and it makes more sense. Oil-based, you'll see contractors using oil-based. It does provide a harder finish and it does look a little bit nicer than water-based, but I'm going to concentrate on water-based. So trying to decide how much paint you need, this always comes up. It's really simple math. It's the width of the room, the width of the wall multiplied by the height. So you're going to do that for each wall, add up that number, and that is your square footage. A gallon of paint usually covers about 300 square feet. So if you need help calculating it, you can ask anyone in the paint department who's working there. They should be able to calculate that for you. It's really simple. So as far as the sheen, so remember this, like the sheen to clean is satin. If you just want like a middle of the road, you got a house with kids and it's high traffic, you're going to be able to clean satin, but you're going to also have a nice finish. The most popular sheen is flat. It hides imperfections in your wall, but so between flat and satin, you really can't go wrong with any of those in between. There's going to be an eggshell as well. So high gloss is usually only used for trim, or maybe for like some upscale designers use it for ceilings to add, more brightness to a room. But having said that, the sheen to clean, satin, and flat. Can't go wrong. So you're going to need 20 different supplies before you start painting. Don't panic. You're going to have all these in your home, except for the paint, most likely. So I want to help you learn from my mistakes. If you prepare properly, you're going to enjoy this painting process so much more. So let's get started. So first of all, you're going to need your paint. We already discussed what kind. So primer. There's a couple different thoughts about primer. You only really need primer if you're covering up water stains or a smell, or if you're going to paint a really light color over dark. Otherwise, paint and primer in one. That's the paint you'll see. You get what you pay for. It does work, and a cheap paint has more water in it. A more expensive paint has more pigment, and it just hides better. It shows the color. It's true to the color that you see in the paint chip. The 20 items you'll need to be fully prepared to paint are the paint, primer, brushes, a roller and the roller cage, cup. You need a tray or a pan, obviously, for your roller. You need spackle, tape, a screwdriver, a razor blade, a hammer, a stir stick, sandpaper, drop cloth, a wet rag, and most of all, you're going to need your party music, because you're going to have a painting party by the time this is done. Okay, anyway. So let me talk. So we talked about paint. So the next thing is primer. Yes, primer is necessary if you are covering up smells or stains, or if you're painting over a really dark color and you're transitioning to a light color. Otherwise, yes, paints have primer built in. It is not necessary to buy a primer. If you're painting drywall, make sure it's primed first. Otherwise, all the drywall is going to do is suck up all your paint, and you're going to end up using way more paint, and it's going to be really expensive versus primer, which is a lot cheaper. So brushes, you're going to see, like, why are there so many brushes? It's crazy, and it's not necessary to have more than 2 brushes. One size, you're always going to want a brush for cutting in. That's for doing the edge of the ceiling and for going around your windows. And a good quality brush, I like this handle. And women like this one because it fits in your hand and it gets into tight spots. So I really recommend this type of paintbrush. And a good quality paintbrush has staggered bristles, and then also the end, it's going to come to a taper. So when you do use it, it leaves a nice, smooth finish. So the other size brush you need is a 3 to 4 inch brush. That's just going to give you, that's for painting window seals. And then you'll need a roller. And there's two different premises behind the expensive and cheap rollers. Inexpensive ones, the fiber's glued on. The expensive ones, the fibers are punched in, and you can reuse them. Once again, my knowledge is really based in Purdy products. So I love them. I've used many of their products, and you can't go wrong. You do get what you pay for, once again, with the rollers. With the cage that you put it on, it can be cheap or expensive. I go for the one that weighs the lightest, and they're just like a standard 9-inch is what you're going to find in rollers. So, and you can reuse the more expensive ones. Plastic. Why would you need plastic? When you're done painting for the day, just put your brush in here and tighten it up. This brush will stay perfect for several days if you can't get back to your paint job. And also just slip your paint tray right into a plastic bag as well, a grocery bag, and tie it off. It saves so much time. I've tried the most expensive versus this one. And here's the difference with tape. If you're going to do your project paint in one day, you can use regular masking tape. You don't need to buy the expensive blue or green tape that you see. It's really about how long you're going to leave the tape on the wall. And when you do use tape, make sure you seal the edge either with your thumb or you run like a screwdriver, but gently. You just want to seal off that edge that you're going to paint over so the line is emphasized. Okay, so your screwdriver, this you're going to use to open your paint, and you're also going to take off all your switch plates and your light switch covers beforehand. You're going to need a ladder and a light source because it gets dark now so early, and it's just going to continue that way. You don't want to get halfway through painting and realize that it's getting dark and you have to stop everything, find a light. Just trust me, you're going to want to have a light set up and a ladder. You're going to want to have a wet rag in case there are drips. You can get to them right away, so you can be a soapy rag. As far as drop cloths, the reason why you're going to see contractors, they use canvas because the paint dries. If you use plastic, yeah, it's cheaper, but you can step in it and you just track paint everywhere. Learn from my mistakes. So a solution to that, if you are trying to do this, economically, I totally get it. But then buy these slip covers and put them on your shoes. And so when you exit the room, you can take these off and you're not going to track paint throughout your house. Just a little tip for you. Obviously, you're going to need stir sticks. You should get plenty of those. Ask wherever you buy your paint. And don't forget your cup. You're going to need this for when you're cutting in. When you're up at the ceiling and you're on the ladder, and it's just such a handy way to distribute and have access to paint without having to worry about something tipping over or having a big clunky can of paint or the tray. So I highly recommend just using a paper cup. So a razor blade, you don't need to mask around your windows. Believe it or not, it's much quicker to just scrape the paint off afterwards. But make sure you don't hit the seal. You'll see where the glass is housed and you'll see the trim. But I have saved so much time. I don't mask anything anymore except for like if you have to go around cover up a light, like things like that. But you really don't need to mask your the ceiling edge or the edge down on the baseboard. If you have a steady hand and you're applying paint properly, you can save so much time and tape by not having to mask things off. Sandpaper is to, if there's a sheen on your wall that say you're moving from a satin to a flat, well, more specifically, if you're moving from a high gloss to a flat, you're going to want to rough up the surface. So use the finest grade sandpaper and just give it texture to knock it down a little bit, and the paint will adhere a lot better to it. So, like I said, 20 items. Most of them are probably already in your home, but if you have all these items at your disposal, it's going to make painting so much more fun, and you're not going to be frustrated, and you'll want to continue to paint. I am now going to answer a question from Zane in Tampa. Thanks, Zane, for reaching out. He wanted to know, he's on a budget, and paint is not cheap anymore. Where can you buy paint or find paint that's inexpensive. And there are a couple places. You can look at Habitat for Humanity at their store. You'll find paint there. And also, I know at Menards, they have a clearance area where people return their paint they didn't like. And you can get that paint for so cheap. And honestly, you can find like really great deals. So that would be my tip for finding affordable paint. There's also a lot of cities have a center where you drop off your paints and you can go back in there and get them for free. I'm not sure if Minneapolis does it. I should probably have done my research on that. But I know that in Florida, you could find free paint at these disposal sites. So anyway, I'm going to leave you this week with this question. Why can't I use exterior paint inside? Do you ever wonder, like, what's the difference? I'm going to answer that next week. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And please reach out to me at my email. And I look forward to hearing from you again, and keep the questions coming. And painting can be fun. I appreciate you, and thank you so much for watching. Let's do color right.